Welcome back to the round of 16 at the National Heads Up Poker Championship presented by WSOP.com. A spot in the quarterfinals at stake here at Caesars Palace. Payouts going up, intensity going up. 4 matchups featuring some of the best players in the world. Let's meet the diamonds and hearts side of the bracket.
Tom Dwan, Brian Hastings,
Joseph Chung,
Eugene Kachalov, and I'm taking another shot at the round of 16.
Joe Sirach, Dan Smith.
And at our feature table,
Phil Hellmuth.
And I'm David Sands, the guy who's about to beat Phil Hellmuth.
We're going to see about that, kids. We're going to see about that.
That's why we're here.
Phil, David is known to be a methodical player. Any concern that that white magic might be neutralized by you?
No, I mean, I think hopefully what separates, hopefully I have some great reading stuff. I mean, David Doc Sands is a very talented player and done amazing stuff, and I think he's very talented, so I think it's going to be a good match.
All right. You seem confident, David. Are you?
Yeah, I have a ton of respect for Phil, but, you know, these heads-up tournaments, anyone can win them, and I know Phil's been here before, and so it'll be fun to dethrone a former champ.
And you told us you were excited to play Phil. Why is that?
You know, he's been great for the game. He's a great personality, and he's someone I watched playing poker growing up, so it's always fun to play against someone you idolized when you were younger.
Well, good luck, gentlemen. Let's get the cards in the air.
With that, we say hello. Matt Vasgersian and Ali Najat back with you for the conclusion of the round of 16.
6-12? I believe so. I think that's right, yeah.
Good luck, Phil.
Good luck, bro.
Phil Hellmuth and David Sands highlighting a very competitive hearts and diamonds bracket. Hey, no Hellmuth handshake there to start the match. Can we read into that at all, Ali?
Oh, I don't think so. Hard to take too much from that, but David Sands is exactly the kind of player Phil Hellmuth should feel threatened by. He's young, talented, and, most importantly, hardworking, but come on.
27.
Phil's not nervous. He's got 13 bracelets, and he'll let you know it.
He was raised to 2,700 on 9-8. Ace-9 suited for David Sands.
That's a superior holding.
David is called, and we'll see our first flop in this match. Trade deuce 4 and a straight draw for David Sands.
Total air for Phil Hellmuth.
Sands is checked.
Now, Phil's somebody that's certainly capable of shutting down, but on a flop like this, after his opponent has defended the big blind, he's going to be more inclined
6,000
to fire the continuation bet.
He's bet 6,000, and Sands lays it down.
Pretty conservative start to the match. David had the ace-high in the wheel draw.
To Joseph Chong on your left and Eugene Kachalov. A slight chip advantage for Joseph. As you can see, he looks in on Jack 4.
Call.
And calls. Ace-10 of diamonds for Eugene.
Check.
He checks.
Chong taking a bit of a different approach here, not raising the button.
And Eugene has flopped the nut flush.
He's got the royal flush draw. Not that he needs it.
Jacks for Joseph. Kachalov has bet 1,600. And Chong calls.
Now, give Eugene credit. By having bet the flop, he makes it that much more difficult for Joe to put him on the flush. Who would bet the nut flush on the flop, right?
It's a tough turn card for Joe. He has made 3 of a kind and bets 3,000.
And that's, of course, because Eugene checked it to him, which is a fantastic check. He's reeling Joe in here.
Oh, rivers of 4 of spades and a full house for Chong.
Are you kidding me? This is the first pot we're seeing in this match, the nut flush against a boat.
Kachalov is checked. Chong bet 6,600.
There is a pair out there, but you can't expect Eugene to just call, and in fact, you see the raise to 18,000. Joe is loving this.
I'm all in.
And he's going to try to put Eugene all in.
Oh, that look said it all. Eugene knows with the pair out there, the nut flush is vulnerable. And if you've got the nut flush, what is Joe shipping it with?
I feel like a little if I just called you with this.
And Eugene lays down the ace-high flush.
That's no Harvey home game play. That's a disciplined laydown.
Flush and lays it down.
That's probably the best, Eugene. I just couldn't fit call on the river.
Joseph Chong takes a nice putt.
Might look bad. On TV, yeah.
Well, Joseph Chong off to the early lead as he quickly increases his starting stack of 100,000. Blinds 6 and 1,200 to kick things off, but they'll move up quickly in this accelerated format. Some of the best no-limit hold'em players in the world are here at Caesars Palace. 4 chips in play in the round of 16. Youth is served in the Hearts and Diamonds brackets. 6 players under 30. Phil Hellmuth is the only player over 40. Power matchups in this hour. Which one stands out for you, Ali?
Of course, the Hellmuth-Sands matchup is the one that all eyes in the room are on. But let's not sleep on that Dwan Hastings battle. We could see fireworks out of that match as well.
Back to Joseph Chong and Eugene Kachalov.
You know, Eugene was worried about a call looking bad, but instead his fold looked amazing.
Raised the 3,200.
Eugene is raised with 8-5 of diamonds. Joseph 9-6 offsuit, and he calls. And the flop, 6 tray 7, huge flop. Joseph flops middle pair. Eugene is open-ended with a flush draw here.
And Joe's leading right into the pre-flop razor. He wouldn't mind taking this pot right here on such a textured board.
Eugene just calls.
And he certainly could have raised with that big draw.
Turns a jack of spades.
Second overcard to Joe's 6s. Plus the call by Eugene in position lends to Joe checking.
Kachalov bets 7,000.
I love this bet by Eugene. He's taking advantage of the opportunity to win the pot right here. And even if Joe calls like he does, Eugene has plenty of outs.
And one of those outs comes on the river. Eugene makes his flush. Joseph has checked.
This is not a good-looking board for 9-6 at this point. Especially if Eugene makes any reasonably sized bet.
He bets 13,500.
That qualifies as reasonably sized.
And he gets a call.
Wow.
Eugene takes the pot.
Eugene Kachalov takes the pot.
Joseph Chong must have had his mind made up that Eugene was simply floating on the flop in position with air. No other explanation for the river call.
Get it right back.
Chong with a misstep after a huge full house. Who'll move on?
Joseph Chong. Eugene Kachalov.
Tom Dwan.
Brian Hastings.
Joe Sirach. Dan Smith.
Phil Hellmuth.
David Sands.
This year's event started with 7 former main event champs. Right now, there's just one left, Phil Hellmuth. But Phil knows that a victory 24 years ago isn't going to help him today as he takes on one of the top tournament players in the world, David Doc Sands, who secured his spot in the event when Daniel Negreanu withdrew, and Sands is making the most of it. So, Ali, what does the doctor have in store for Hellmuth?
This is the doctor's first appearance, and he may feel some pressure here during Operation Hellmuth. Well, it's a great opportunity for Sands to prove to a large audience that he belongs among poker's elite by beating one of poker's elite. He'd do well to stick to his trademark methodical pace and hope to disrupt Hellmuth's rhythm. Because in a matchup of near equal skills-wise, every little edge counts, and I give the edge to the doctor, who is in to the round of 8.
Well, it's Phil Hellmuth that has a slight edge so far in this match. Blinds at 8 and 1,600. Phil squeezing out Jack 9 offsuit. He will call. Ace Queen for Doc.
54.
Puts in a raise to 5,400.
54, huh?
That's a pretty big pre-flop raise.
Phil's made the call.
Now, Phil didn't have to make this call, but he doesn't want to get into the habit of limping on the button and then simply folding to pressure.
Flop is King, King 5.
Pretty good-looking board for Doc Sands to fire the continuation bet.
8,000.
He bets 3,400, and Phil quickly raises to 8,000.
Phil's trying to sell the idea that he either limped with a pocket pair or a king. But with that board texture, a king is a tougher sell.
Oh.
Doc calls.
Sands obviously not buying what Hellmuth is selling.
Raises, Doc calls.
Turn is a 10 of diamonds, and now both players pick up a straight draw.
Doc checking and hoping that Phil will check behind him.
Check.
Phil checks.
He has
Here's
checked.
River.
River's a
Here's
4 of
the
hearts.
Totally irrelevant card to the board.
Doc checks.
Sands checked.
Now, with Phil having checked on the turn, as you see him reaching for chips, this is going to be a really tough sell. A king would have bet the turn card, no doubt.
Phil bets 11,000.
So Doc's either going to put him on the pocket pair or complete air, one or the other.
He puts him on air, makes the call, and takes down the pot with ace high.
And Phil shows jack high.
You don't usually see Phil Hellmuth involved in pots like that.
Good call.
Good call indeed.
I figured you might call me with ace high.
Of course you did.
All right, my turn, kid.
And that will give Doc
Now I'm
Sands
going to
a
have to
lead,
beat you in like the next 7 minutes.
I'm not going anywhere.
You might in 7 minutes.
Somebody's not intimidated.
David Sands is on a 7-minute warning, apparently.
Start the clock.
Back over to Joseph Chung and Eugene Kachalov. Pair of jacks for Joe.
35.
3,500.
He'll put in a raise to 3,500. Pocket kings for Kachalov. Eugene re-raises to 9,200.
9,200 total.
Joseph raises to 20,500.
500 is the bet.
Temperature rising.
All in.
And Eugene's going to put Joseph all in.
All in a call.
And a call.
You know, Chong was really faced with a small chance that Kachalov had tens, but otherwise it was queens, kings, aces, or ace-king.
Here's the flop.
And the flop. 8, deuce, 6, no help for Chung.
Well, there are 2 hearts on the board.
King of hearts? Wow, you're asking for too much there.
It is
7 of diamonds on the turn. Joseph Chung, the only player to finish in the top 2% at the main event the last 3 years.
And it's a
And
3.
he is going home this afternoon. His inaugural heads-up journey will end in the round of 16. Eugene Kachalov advances to the round of 8.
Turning point in this match was when Eugene mucked a nut flush to Joseph's boat.
You want to play some poker? Doc Sands? Let's play some poker. You want to play? You got me, okay?
All square. Their match.
You want to play the game? Let's play the game.
I think that's what he's here for. Is that bad?
Raise.
David Sands with the lead.
Doc is raised with king 6 offsuit.
This time you have it, huh?
9-7 for Phil, and he calls.
Phil makes the call.
Hellmuth is tilted over that ace-queen high call that Doc made, and he'd do wise to keep his emotions in check here. The more he shows frustration, the more Doc will zero in on it.
Flop is 10-8 tray, an open-ended straight draw for Phil.
And a very quick check. Hellmuth is clearly aggravated.
Sands bets 3,700.
Phil calls.
Phil calls.
I think Phil needs to slow down and make sure he's thinking out every decision still.
Ace of clubs
Check.
on the turn.
Ace of clubs on the turn, a quick check from Hellmuth.
Check, check.
Sands is checked, and the river.
Here's the river.
Doc might have been able to represent the ace there.
6,500.
6,500.
Hellmuth paired his 9, bet 6,500. Sands laid down his hand, and Phil Hellmuth takes down the pot. Phil is on a mission, and he might need some of his patented white magic to get it done. The 2013 National Heads Up Poker Championship is brought to you by WSOP.com.
Welcome back to the National Heads Up Poker Championship. David Doc Sands said that he was going to beat Phil Hellmuth, and so far, Sands has the edge, but there is plenty of play left. Eugene Kachalov has already advanced over Joseph Chong. 3 matches still being contested as quarterfinal bids wait in the balance.
Tom Dwan on the left, and with the chip advantage over Brian Hastings. Blinds at 12 and 2,400 here.
Who'd you play first round? Matt Matros. Did you guys just get it in
light, or was it like kind of?
We played a 4-bet pot.
5,200.
And then you 4-bet me with Jack 2 suited and flop top pair, and I had Ace 10 suited and flop second pair.
Oh yeah, I heard that one.
Pocket nines against 7-4 of hearts here, and on the flop, Tom pairs a 7.
Word apparently travels fast in the poker room. Dwan's already got the rundown on Hastings' previous matches.
Dwan is checked. Hastings bet 5,500, and Tom calls.
Well, trouble here is he can't get away, but he doesn't love it.
Tray of diamonds comes on the turn. Check, check.
And that's going to let Tom feel a little bit better about his hand on the river.
Deuce of diamonds on the river.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Tom bet, but a good check here.
So Hastings measuring off a bet. 16,000.
16,000.
Into a pot of 21. That's 3/4.
And an unhappy Tom.
And a good
Dwan
laydown by Tom. Doesn't think Hastings would bluff the end.
You don't look that unhappy.
I'll try and hide it.
Got plenty of things to smile about.
Back to Hellmuth and Sands.
Maybe you move in or something. Maybe I call. I don't know.
Phil's thinking out loud again. Not sure if that's on purpose or not.
Neither is he.
Watch this.
You folded? That was your first fold of the day. And I hadn't even looked, obviously. It's not like you had to read.
No, of course not.
That's sick. I hadn't even looked.
I would have loved to hear David tell him that he did have a read.
Doc being supervised by his fiancée, Erica Mutino, also a standout poker player.
And to think, we almost lost the talents of Doc Sands to the tennis world. He was actually recruited to play in college, but suffered a back injury that sidelined him permanently. You don't have to have a good back to play poker.
Call.
Connecting cards for Phil, he calls with 6-5 offsuit. 10-4 for David. He will check.
Usually when I limp on the button, you raise. You did show one. You did have one hand.
You'd think Hellmuth was complaining.
Flop is 4-ace-jack, bottom pair for Sands.
Nothing happening for Hellmuth other than position and an opportunity to take a stab after Sands checked it.
Phil bets 2,400. Sands calls.
Not giving Phil credit for much of anything after he limped the button.
Turns the deuce of spades, gut shot straight draw for Hellmuth. Sands quickly checks. Phil checks. To the river. Queen of hearts. Sands checks once more.
15.
And that is a huge overbet by Phil Hellmuth with 6 high on the river.
And Sands folds his hand.
Really tough to call with 4s on that board, but if you stop to think about it, 15K into a pot of under 10 is polarizing.
I didn't imagine you'd be this aggressive. Actually, with you, I wasn't sure. I thought maybe you could be this aggressive.
So which is it?
Yeah, we haven't played that much together.
No, but the one time we played, you were played a little fast, I felt like. For better or for worse.
Fast is not often a word used to describe Doc Sands.
Riz.
He's like a junior Chris Ferguson when it comes to speed of play.
Doc has raised to 6,500 with ace-10.
Raised to 17,000.
Phil ace-deuce re-raises to 17,000.
Wow. We don't typically see Hellmuth this aggressive. The problem with the play is he's talked about not wanting to get pushed around, so Doc knows that this might just be part of an agenda and not his hand.
Re-raise.
Wow.
Sands puts in a raise to 28-4.
Nice scenarios for you, haven't you?
28,400.
Phil folds.
Of course, I'm never going to re-raise you without having it.
And he flashed the ace.
You're way too aggressive.
Lose a little to start, win a little bit more the next time. David Sands rebounds nicely and has the poker brat talking to himself. Welcome back to Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. Phil Hellmuth and that man, David Doc Sands, battling at the featured table for a berth in the round of 8.
Doc started a business back in college buying used textbooks from fellow students and then selling them on Amazon and eBay. Flipped a nice $30K profit by the time he was all done. He had 4 employees. Entrepreneurial.
Doc is called with ace-7, suited
Raise.
king-queen for
7,000.
Phil, and he puts in a raise to 10,000.
7,000 more.
Raise it again and again. My turn.
That's a huge raise by Hellmuth. And no shortage of chirping.
Sands will re-raise.
How much more?
11,400 more.
Don't try to bully a bully.
Raise 20 more.
Oh, wow.
So 41-4.
Another 20,000 on top of that.
It's not too often you'll see 41-4 out there pre-flop with king-queen suited from Phil Hellmuth when it's not even an all-in situation.
Sands folds his hand.
And the chip lead.
That's a look at Phil 2.0.
Hellmuth taking the lead. Meanwhile, Brian Hastings is enjoying his day in the round of 16, but we doubt it compares to a day he had back at Cornell.
The session against Victor Blom, my famous $4.2 million win, was just a surreal experience. I was in the midst of finals week at Cornell. I was studying, but I had the tables up in the background. We played 6 tables of 500, 1,000 pot limit Omaha. I got off to a pretty fast start. I looked at my poker tracker and realized that I was up about $2.5 million. When it was all over, I was just in a complete state of shock. I couldn't believe that it was even possible to win that much money in one day playing online poker.
I was studying, but I had the tables up in the background. You can make 4.2 in the background?
No draw, no
Come on.
John
You
Hennigan.
could still just put me on the leading out with the gutter and make a nice little small raise.
Other 3 will come from these 3 matches.
Possible.
Ace-king here for Brian. Suited, no less.
Raise
He'll
8,000.
put in a raise to 8,000. Tom with Jack-6 of diamonds.
I'm all in.
And he moves all in.
See all in?
I'm all in.
I call.
Snap call from Hastings.
All in and a call.
What
Tom
happened
Dwan
there?
all in. Jack 6 of diamonds for Tom.
Tom
Ace
Dwan
king
decided
of
that
hearts.
Hastings' range was so
Brian.
narrow to call. He figured he'd just ship it in and take his chances.
Practically all the chips in play in this pot. And the flop, pair of 6s for Dwan, kings for Hastings.
30. You can't put the king on that side. It's got to be on this side.
I was hoping for like another king and an ace.
Turns a 7 of hearts. Dwan loses it out.
That's going to make Tom's job slightly more difficult. Needs a blackjack or 6.
And it's a 7
River
of
is a 7 of diamonds. Brian Hastings has doubled up to take a practically insurmountable lead. Tom Dwan left with 4,000 of the 200,000 in play.
File that under the oops category.
Yeah, I made a pretty big limp there, actually. But I can't. Problem is, I can't beat ace-deuce.
Blinds up to 2 and 4,000 here. Suited ace-5 for David.
Seems like Doc's always got a little something to work with.
He calls.
Okay.
9-7, Phil has checked.
over here.
What? No pre-flop 4 betting between these two?
Flop is Jack ace king. Sands pairs his ace. Phil checks. And Sands puts in a bet of 4,500.
Now remember, this is a limp pot. And it looks like Hellmuth isn't going to be giving Sands credit for this part of the deck. He check raises to 11,000.
Calls 11,000.
Sands calls.
Not what Hellmuth wanted to see. With 9 high and no draw.
Turns a deuce of hearts and a flush draw for Sands.
25.
Phil drawing dead, bets out 25,000.
He's not going to abandon his line, continuing to try to tell the story that he's got ace-5 beat. Sands going nowhere, obviously.
He's moved all in.
Doc Sands is all in.
The beauty of this play
Helmet's bet
is
on
it could get a better hand to fold. And in case he's beaten gets called, he knows he has outs.
And Phil dumps his hand and dumps his gum.
And dumps a good chunk of his chips. Around 40,000.
David Sands now in the lead in this match.
Putting it all in blind?
Yep.
Well, I have this one all in.
Brutal. I can't get full. Do 7.
Jack 6 of hearts for Brian Hastings. He is putting Tom Dwan all in.
10 of hearts.
Am I getting slow rolled? Oh my god.
Deuce of hearts. Jack of hearts.
Oh my god.
6
Got
of
the hearts covered.
That shape now.
We can take hearts out of the equation.
Take a look at the flop.
Tom is 10 and deuce fishing.
And look at this flop for Brian. Trip jacks.
You got the 9-8.
Yeah.
Start the bus.
Wait.
Oh, wait a
The 9
minute.
of spades.
A little bit of life.
Leave that bus in park. Dwan can now hit an 8 to double up. Can he do it?
As
Rivers
the
a king of clubs, and Brian Hastings is moving on to the round of 8. 3-0 in his maiden voyage into heads up.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Tom Dwan was effectively drawing dead on the flop. Brian Hastings moving on to the round of 8 in his heads up debut.
There's one word to describe my style of play. It would have to be maverick.
Smart.
Different.
Thrilling. Patient. Aggressive.
Aggressive.
Aggressive? No.
Can it be a 3-lettered acronym?
Old-fashioned.
Observant.
Creative.
SWM. Squeeze with moves.
Intelligent? Never.
If I could describe it in one word, would be erratic.
Relentless. Fierce.
DGen.
If I could describe it in 2 words, I would say highly erratic.
Calculated.
Calculated.
Calculated. Calculated.
Adaptive.
Adaptive.
Heads Up returns the next 2 Saturdays on NBC, the round of 8 and the semis, then the finals. A new feature table, Joe Sirach on the left, Dan Smith on the right, and quickly, Sirach is at risk with most of the chips in play in the middle.
Another one of these massive pots with a hand that looks like it doesn't belong. Guess which one?
Flop is 5 deuce queen.
Sirach picks up 5s as outs.
4-3.
He's looking for an ace or a 5.
Ace on the turn.
Easy does it.
Now aces and 5s in the lead.
And Dan Smith does not look
And
pleased.
Jack. Here's the river.
Rightfully so. He's got 2 outs.
It's a deuce.
And Joe Sirach doubles up to take a huge lead in the match.
Dan Smith feeling like Tom Dwan right about now.
Back to Phil Hellmuth and David Sands, and Sands with roughly a 2.5 to 1 chip advantage in this match.
How much do you have, Phil?
Blinds at 2 and 4,000.
35. Yeah, I think 52 is roughly right, Tom.
So that's this morning.
Pocket 9s for Sands.
Of course, I limped big there. He showed me he's ready to call. I know he's ready to call.
The outer monologue at work once again.
You know, and for Sands, he makes every bet like he's on lithium water.
It's all deliberate.
Pocket queens for Hellmuth.
You get the feeling all the chips could end up in the center here.
22.
You raised to 22.
Hellmuth raises to 22,000.
Call.
All in and a call.
Phil calls all in.
2 queens
Pocket
to Phil
queens against pocket 9s.
Of your hand.
2 9s. Doc Sands.
Hellmuth a 4-1 favorite heading to the flop.
All that work, they let you cooler me. They might reward me.
I'm not that confident.
Phil with the best hand, but the one at risk right now. Here comes the flop.
Well, Hellmuth's saying he's not that confident. He's got no reason not to be heading to the flop.
9 right in the
Oh,
window.
but he's really not that confident now. A set of 9s for David Sands.
Here's the turn.
What do they call that?
nothing.
Visualization?
Turns a
That had
tray of
nothing to do with
diamonds.
me.
Hellmuth needs to catch a queen on the river. He's going home.
Yep. Throw your coat on, Phil.
This is how I get my money in like every tournament I play in. It's crazy. I mean, it's just over and over and over.
Phil needs a queen. Here's the river. It's
Hey, queen!
Moaning is rewarded in this case.
Phil Hellmuth hits a 2-outer to stay alive in his round of 16 matchup against David Sands. Sands had him all but going home.
Now, Hellmuth in the lead.
Take a look at the chip count between Joe Sirach and Dan Smith, and Sirach has Smith all but going home.
All smiles in Joe's corner.
Oh, yeah.
All in.
And Jack 6 for Sirach. He's going to put the cleaned-up version of Seth Rogen all in.
All in.
He gets a call from Dan.
10-4.
Well, Jack high against 10 high.
Jack 6.
Smith has had one double up already. Can he do it again?
And the flop. Deuce 6 ace.
Pair of sixes.
Sirach's got sixes. Dan needs to hit a 10 or a couple of runners.
Here's the turn.
Turns a 7 of diamonds.
7 of diamonds.
Sirach has diamonds covered. No running straight cards, so now Dan is down to 3 outs once.
And it does not come on the river. A 5 of hearts, and Joe Sirach is on to the round of 8.
Dan just couldn't get his 2 jacks to hold against Sirach's ace-5. And Joe is lucky to be moving on to face Brian Hastings.
Blinds at 3 and 6,000 as we go back to the feature table.
Neither player with over 20 big blinds.
Ooh, ace-jack for Doc Sands here.
More playable holdings for him.
6,000 on the blinds. Action to Doc Sands.
Sands calls.
Calls.
Queen 6 for Hellmuth. He checks.
Well, that's not what Doc wanted to see. I'm sure he would have been willing to gamble with Phil had he raised.
And Phil pairs his 6 on the flop. 2 pair for Hellmuth.
Check.
Hellmuth checks.
Phil checks.
6,000.
Sands bets 6,000.
Good board for him to try to win the pot here with a little bet.
Phil has called.
Not going to happen, obviously.
The turn is a king of hearts.
King of hearts.
Hellmuth bets out 10,000.
I like this line by Phil Hellmuth.
Big blind hand.
I don't like the fact that he's announcing he had a big blind hand, trying to sell the idea that he had a 5.
Sands calls.
To be fair, that line may have lent to Doc's suspicions and the call.
And the river, and Sands pairs his jack.
Must be nice.
Phil checks.
Hellmuth checks.
Call.
Sands bets 12,400. Phil quickly calls. Calls and walks away.
My God, he called me with ace high.
Core meltdown might be imminent here. It's a pretty bad beat.
12,400
Played him so good. That's sick. How much? 12-4?
12-4.
Come on, I'm drawing dead.
Phil's upset because he had the right read and the river just didn't cooperate.
I wanted to let him think I was weak. Wow, what a card, buddy. I played you pretty good there. Pretty good.
The thrill of a queen. The agony of a jack. Phil Hellmuth doing his best to try to get by David Sands. The 2013 National Heads Up Poker Championship presented by WorldSeriesOfPoker.com is brought to you by Caesars Palace, Las Vegas, a routinely spectacular experience.
Welcome back to the National Heads Up Championship presented by WSOP.com. 3 players have already moved on to the round of 8. Eugene Katcheloff improved his career Heads Up record to 5-1 as he defeated Joseph Chong. 2012 World Series of Poker Heads Up champ Brian Hastings took down Tom Dwan. And in the battle of NBC Heads Up first-timers, Joe Sirach beat Dan Smith. Let's check back in with Phil Hellmuth and Doc Sands at the feature table.
It's been the tale of 2 Phils here in the round of 16. Calm and collected, and then the littlest thing can set him off.
Well, that's just the tale of the only Phil I know.
Hellmuth with pocket deuces has called 3,000. 10-9 for Sands.
Phil limping on the button with the 2 deuces. I suspect that he's trying to induce the raise from Doc Sands.
David raises.
And there it is. But now what do? It's over 11,000 more to call. I think Phil's intention was to try to play this like a big hand.
Phil makes the call.
But without re-raising and just calling, that's not the case.
You already beat this hand once.
Flop is 5-8 Trey.
2 overs for Doc. Not much else. Look at the size of the pot. Almost 35,000. You got to bet at least half that to make it meaningful.
He does. 18-7 is the bet.
And this is why you don't really want to take a flop with 2 deuces. Unless you hit a set, it's all over cards.
All in.
Phil has moved all in.
Certainly taking his chances.
And Sands folds. Hellmuth takes down the pot.
Gamble, gamble.
A nice read, nice execution from Hellmuth. But given his recent hard work, that's what he expects of himself.
I'm really happy with the way I'm playing because I've worked hard. I'm learning how to play heads up at a world-class level. I was kind of surprised that I wasn't at a world-class level before. I think if I have the mathematics and the tactics down cold, then that allows my reading ability to kick in. Like, all right, I think he's strong, I'll lay it down. I think he's weak, I think I'll raise. Right now, I seem to have my white magic, my reading ability, that is. And I am very comfortable at the table.
Well, who do you suppose told Phil he wasn't at the world-class level?
Not Phil.
That's for sure.
Lines at 4 and 8,000 here.
You know, confidence is certainly a big part of any poker player's outlook and success, but it's not all of it.
Ace, 9 of hearts for Doc Sands.
$16,000.
He raises to 16,000. Queen 10 offsuit for Phil. And he calls.
Phil calls.
The flop.
Check.
Ooh, top pair and a flush draw for Sands.
Unfortunately for him, not much happening in Phil Hellmuth's corner. Might be tough to get action.
Phil checked, and Sands going to bet 8,000.
8,000.
That is such a small bet.
Phil calls.
Phil calls.
I check.
Checks
Hellmuth
hard.
checks in the dark.
Return.
Couldn't resist the temptation of 5 to 1.
The 6 hearts.
And on the turn, Sands makes his flush.
He's got this pot locked up. And for those of you watching, you don't ever want to have a hand with the 0% next to it.
That's not good, you're saying?
No bueno.
Sands bets 12,400.
12,400.
Good bet.
Phil folds, and Sands takes down the pot.
Would have been tough to continue with queen high there.
I don't like the way I played that one.
You a monster?
Well, you're raising every hand. You haven't folded a button in forever, so I had kind of had an easy shift before the flop.
David Sands more than holding his own in what's become a heavyweight poker fight. Welcome back to Caesars Palace, Las Vegas, side of the 2013 National Heads Up Poker Championship. Blinds at 4 and 8,000, and Doc Sands with a small edge over Phil Hellmuth.
Almost any hand that these two choose to play should be an all-in situation with the blinds where they are.
King, queen of hearts for Hellmuth here.
All in.
Oh, and he's moving all in. Also, king, queen for Sands. He'll call.
King, queen of
We'll probably
hearts.
re-rack this thing 91% of the time. These two will chop.
For Doc Sands.
Want to chop it?
Flush draws for Lou.
I'll take my free roll. Although it's not a free roll.
That might have been your demise right there. You got to be careful with those jinxes.
Oh, whatever.
Mildly
I
dismissive.
like that. Here's the flop.
That's not good.
10 queen tray and a heart.
And that means only Hellmuth can win this pot.
It's a jack of
Oh,
hearts.
a jack of hearts on the turn.
That's the first piece of the puzzle.
Royal flush.
Doc Sands in danger of getting doubled through here.
I don't think so, but
still 80% of the time, this will end in a tie.
I think you're going to get there.
Doc's thinking black card.
It is
Oh, it's a heart on the river. Phil Hellmuth has doubled up to take a big lead in the match.
oh my God, that was just lucky. That was just lucky there. That was just lucky. Thanks for the roots, guys. Thanks for the support, by the way.
Nice job, Phil.
There's a lucky crew. There must be some billionaires in this crew.
That heart on the river leaves David Sands with just over 20,000 of the 200,000 in play. He and his fiancée concerned for his tournament life at this moment.
The blinds are just so big. 20,000 really isn't much to work with.
Yeah.
Doc's going to need a double-double. And then some more double.
All in.
And he moves all in with Jack 6.
Call.
Phil has called.
Phil calls.
Didn't bother looking at the second one.
6 o'clock.
And it happens to be an ace.
King for Phil Hellmuth.
He'll take that.
Doc Sands in bad shape here.
What, you're prepaying?
No, I'm not prepaying. I'm just saving time.
That sounds like prepaying.
Here's a flop.
Flop is 9, 10, 10.
Uphill climb for Doc Sands.
He's king.
A straight card on the turn would make it interesting.
Seems fair you should have a queen or
Should have some
8
kind
for a
of
straight draw. Yeah.
7-8 queen would be reasonable.
Sands looking for a jack or a 6.
Here's a turn.
That would allow him to take the lead right here.
Turns a 4 of diamonds.
4 of diamonds.
So it's down to just the jack or the 6, or it's curtains for Doc Sands.
Here is the river.
And that
it's a
curtain
7,
has
Phil
closed.
Hellmuth.
Phil Hellmuth moving on to the round of 8.
You played excellent poker. Thanks. I'm not surprised. Yeah. But you're surprised I played a little better than you thought I might.
No, I thought you were going to play well.
Okay.
It was a good match. Very good match.
I mean, obviously, it could go either way. So many places there.
Indeed.
If your king-queen makes the spades, then you're champion.
Well, it took Phil a little longer than the 7 minutes he predicted he would need earlier in the match, but he moves on. It really could have gone either way. It's Phil Hellmuth moving on.
And while it may be Phil Hellmuth's moment, remember that name, David Sands. Valiant effort out there.
In diamonds, a couple of first-timers make the round of 8. Let's go to Julie.
Doc, you fought so hard all match there. How was it to lose that hand, King-Queen?
Well, you know, it always sucks to get it in with the same hand. I guess Phil had a little better equity than me being suited. But, yeah, I mean, it was obviously disheartening, as was the queen on the river once I got there with the 9s against the queens. But it was a great match. Phil played excellent, and, you know, it was just a lot of fun to be part of this event.
Phil, how was Doc as a competitor?
He played fantastic poker. I thought he would. I mean, he's one of the best poker players around right now. But he's also, you know, one of the top 2 or 3 greatest online, in addition to being a great live player. So I figured that he would play about like he played. He was a little bit more aggressive than I thought. I thought he played fantastic poker, and this was the longest match of the whole of all of them.
Yes, it was. You now
He wouldn't give an inch. I wouldn't
Definitely
give
a battle.
Inch.
It's a good battle.
Yeah.
Look forward to doing it again.
Phil, you're halfway there. Can you see yourself as a 2-time champion now?
I'd prefer not to answer that on camera, but I'll just say that I'm the most comfortable I've ever been in heads up by far. I'm very comfortable. My reads seem to be really good. Minus 1 or 2 blunders against Doc.
Well, I'm out of the tournament, so now you don't have anything to worry about.
Well, it was a great match, gentlemen. One of the best so far.
Thanks again, Phil.
Thanks.
Fun.
Yeah, great play.
Good luck.
Thank you. Doc Sands, let's play some poker.
I'm not going anywhere. It might look bad. I'll try and hide it. Watch this. Get it right back.
You're way too aggressive.
That might have been your demise right there.
I'm not that confident.
Got plenty of things to stop with.
Wow.
Coming up next Saturday on NBC, it's the round of 8 in the semifinals here at Caesars Palace. 2 more hours of the National Heads Up Poker Championship presented by WSOP.com.
Oh, my my God, what a match against Doc Sands. I mean, we played 3.5 hours.
No real big cooler situations were dealt, except one when I had him at a 3-1 chip deficit when he got dealt queens and I got dealt nines.
I only have 52,000. I realize that I'm going to have like 100,000. He's going to have 100.
22. All the chips are going to go in that situation with those two hands heads up no matter what. All that work, going to let you cooler me. They might reward me.
And he's talking about, I feel like I'm going to hit a 9, and boom, there it is.
9 right in the window.
That was obviously a good feeling, and when the 3 of diamonds came on the turn, I avoided him picking up a backdoor flush draw, 2 outs away from going on to the Elite 8.
Now the queen came, bam, and I'm like, is that a queen? Everybody starts screaming and yelling. It was kind of a gift, and thank you for the gift.